Hi everybody, welcome to SA Rugby Magazine. I am Kevin Ferguson. I've got James Dalton.
Hello Mr. Ferguson, how are you?
Oh, stop. Hey Mark, I got Mark Keohane. We got the Currie Cup and let's get into it. Well, before we get into it, let's chat about Province's poor display against the Sharks.
I was going to say, we do have the Currie Cup, but not in Cape Town. Terrible sending off for the old lady. I know you're very tired of hearing that.
Yeah.
But I have a theory. I don't think they ever wanted to go to Loftus, because you don't dominate a game the way they did. You don't dominate field position and possession and still have no points. I mean, the Sharks had 9 points that they should never have had, because there were 3 magnificent kicks from Currie at sea level, one of them close to 60 meters. So the run of play wasn't a 9-0. So immediately you would think, and you've been there in semi-finals and in finals, let's just cancel that out and make sure they don't build scoreboard pressure. So they never looked like scoring. I could understand if they were saying we needed to get it back to 9-7 because the Sharks were so dominant, and if we don't go away from that 22, we won't get back there for 20 minutes. But Province were kicking to the corner.
Is it a confidence in the kicker, because they took the 2 slots in front of the posts, but anything that was moderately challenging, they just kicked to the corner.
I think, Kevin, and to add to you, I say it's that they don't have a Bosch and a Stain that can kick those long range kicks from 60 meters out.
No.
So they become one-dimensional.
I hear what you're saying there, but I think it was so predetermined they're going to kick to the corner and get the 7 points, because they only took it out of desperation because they were gimmies. They were right in front, and it was right near the end of the first half. But if you look at the statistics, they don't show a hell of a return from the kick into the corner 5 or 7 points. Yeah. And you know, 4 try bonus points in Super Rugby, and that's all good and well historically. But big playoff matches are not won with scoring 4 tries. They won by scoring by building scoreboard pressure.
Punishing the opponent with penalties.
And if you're 12-3 up, all of a sudden you can play football. If you're 12-0 up or 12-6 up, you kick to the corner, there's a bit less pressure on you to have to get that 7 points. And I just felt that they never looked like getting that 7 points. And you had 3 World Cup winning starters in that pack. They certainly missed kits off, as we said they would. But there was never a sense that you ever got they were going to win that thing, despite having all of the game.
What for me was a standout is, you know, they say you can't keep doing the same thing and expect a different outcome. And that's what they showed, was in terms of poor game management, poor game decision making, and they had six kickable opportunities at goal. And as you rightly said, Mark, you know, when you play in semi-finals and finals, you take every point or attempt at keeping the scoreboard ticking over.
Yeah, and I mean, just if you go back to when the Springboks beat the All Blacks and won the Tri-Nations, and the All Blacks were 6-0 down in Hamilton. Frans Steyn, 2 magnificent kicks in from behind the 50-yard line at sea level at an angle. All of a sudden, it just gave that Bok team. You speak to the guys who won that game, like, we shouldn't even be in this game. We're 6-0 up. The All Blacks were playing all the rugby, and they were 6-0 down. Wow. Then it became 9-0, and we relied on it. It was at 32-29. We just got over the line there, but it was that start. And the Sharks would have said, we've got a 9 gimme. Now we just got to defend and hope that by 60 minutes, Province aren't as dominant, because they've always kind of tailored off after 60 minutes. And they were hanging on for 60 minutes, the Sharks. And 12-9, for me, the game was to be won by Province. And then the Sharks came back in the last 15 minutes. They scored a try, which was disallowed, which was very dodgy. And it was very technical for them to look at that kind of thing. And then they went back and scored again straight after that. And even in the last 2-3 minutes, or 6 minutes to go, another penalty which would have brought it back to 19-12 and give yourself a converted try to take it into extra time. They again went for the corner. They were held out. That last 3 minutes, when they were just playing effectively for pride, held out, doing the same thing over and over. And I was disappointed when Dobbo said afterwards, we gutted, devastated. It's not happening the way we want to leave. Our discipline let us down. We had everything. We didn't do it. We did the same thing. Nothing came off. That disappointed me more than saying we were outclassed and we were beaten by a better team on the day. Because that's been the story of their year since they've come back. Super Rugby unlocked. And the minute they've come up against a pack that stood up to them, or that tackled manfully, they've looked absolutely devoid of ideas. And They look clueless in their backs as well.
Yeah.
Well, it's par for the course. The province and Stormers for years have flattered to deceive, even with some of the best backs in the world playing for them. Dubbo was out-coached. Sia was out-captained.
And they were certainly out-passioned as well.
Yeah.
And if that's how a team, we go back to all this hype about a last ever game at Newlands. I'd like to think next year, if there's some, or later this year, if there's some form of normality, and Newlands is still standing, that there would be a game organised for a province team to play someone in front of 50,000 and give it the proper send-off, because it's more the fans send-off that you want to give, not the players that are out there.
Yeah.
So I was saying, buy this last ever, But
Well, I've already seen on social media they're saying they're getting ready to smash the old lady down. So,
well, I mean, how many send-offs have we had? We've had too many send-offs with no people, and I'm just sick of hearing it. Let's get into the Currie Cup.
let's speak about winners.
Let's
Currie Cup winners.
You've got what's that competition? Started in 1891. You were just a young boy then, Mark, I think.
Yeah, no, about a year older than James.
And the Bulls haven't won it since 2009, I believe. So, who's going to win it?
No, I know James thinks it's the Lions, but I had to break the news they went out last.
Oh yes, correct, Mark. Oh, sorry.
I know James is James is very fired up with these, in love with these Coastal Oaks at the moment. The Bulls will win it comfortably.
It's because the Coastal girls have nice bodies.
So, James, are you as vociferous that it will be the Sharks?
Well, look, guys, they always say that the games are contested up front. I think for me, as a summarization, I think the packs who interpret the rucks correctly give away least amount of penalties at that breakdown, hands in, is going to give ascendancy to teams with two very good kickers in Steyn and Bosch, respectively. So if they are going to have teams that are going to be over-passionate in terms of trying to get the win-lose ball, be reckless on the engagement coming from the sides, I think there's a team with the most amount of penalties within range that will probably land up winning this game. So I think it's going to be more about the discipline.
Who's the better kicker right now?
Oh no,
Bosch on stats.
If you had to ask me who to pick for kick for my life, I'm picking Steyn every day of the week.
No, without a shadow of doubt. We're talking about the competition stats.
I mean, I think they're both averaging in the high 80s, but the guy with the longest boot is Bosch, but the guy with the most accurate boot traditionally, and I say that knowing that he missed the sitter that he hardly ever did last time they played in Durban to draw the game, Morné Steyn. I mean, Morné Steyn effectively grew up kicking at Loftus, and I just think his game management overall, which has been so impressive in this competition, with a better halfback, I think, playing for the Bulls than it's a young halfback starting for Hendricks, starting for the Sharks. I think they've got the edge at halfback in terms of the collective, and I think they are a slightly stronger pack, and Dwayne Vermeulen's leadership. And then obviously playing in Pretoria, it's where they train every day. They wake up in their beds around the corner, even though there's no crowd. If you look at the two times the Sharks have gone there this year, they've been pumped quite comfortably. And I was very surprised that the Sharks edged them in Durban on that, in the Currie Cup League phase. As I was equally surprised that it went down to a 1-pointer against Province at Newlands. So their away form hasn't been as dominant, but at home, no team's really come close to kind of beating them, even though the Lions ran them close in that league game. That match in the semi-final, I thought Province were 20 points better on domination. The Bulls should have stuck the Lions away by 30 points, given they were playing 15 against 13, no locks for 10 minutes in the second half.
Well, statistically, the Bulls have scored the most amount of tries in the competition. Their points difference is way ahead of the others. So I think that speaks in itself for their ability to dominate and convert and get points on the board. But again, I think the team that keeps the ball alive, keeps it in the air, minimizes that ball on the ground where guys are going to try and come in, create the turnover steal, or come from the wrong side. I think that could be the undoing from an outcome point of view.
But like you said, the Bulls have dominated them. I just think that I think the Bulls will win pretty easily. I think that the Sharks aren't going to have much in the tank after last week's game because they were up for that game. It's tough to get up for 2 games in a row, and I really fancy the Bulls to win easily.
Yeah, if you look at the 2 different kinds of semi-finals, and I thought the Lions were very naive in their approach. They played to a philosophy that they felt got them into the semi-finals in the league. They didn't play playoff kind of rugby where it's percentages, and it doesn't mean it's boring. It's playing percentages, it's playing with a bit of rugby intelligence and playing in the right areas. And I think that's the advantage that the Bulls will have, is they know how to play in the right areas. That's how Jake coaches and that our Mornay State plays. And if you look at that Lions semi-final, that first try was a very well-worked try, but the second one was just a kick that came out of nowhere, bounced and boom, they scored. And they immediately came back and scored, disallowed, scored again, and then were in control of the game. So they were always comfortably 14, 15 points better. I just thought, geez, these Sharks are hanging on, courageous. Defensively, it's like, when is this wall going to break? And actually never did, more through the ineptitude of Province than just absolute class from the Sharks. So I think, similar situation, the Bulls get those opportunities, they will make the Sharks pay, and I don't think the Sharks are good enough to play that catch-up rugger at altitude against a side that is very well settled and very well coached.
Yeah, it's if they fall behind early, you're going to take away that kicking game.
It was quite interesting how the Lions' approach to that game was to try and stretch, and like almost that Constantino type of a game plan.
Well, you know what the Sharks did?
But I think eventually what they did, they thought that they tire that big Bulls pack, and negate their strength up front. But I think eventually they just gassed themselves by playing that game.
I don't think they underestimated the Bulls. They scored the most tries. They've got a very good defensive game.
Yes.
And if you think 11-0 down at half-time, change your approach. 2 minutes within the kickoff, Dalton takes it up on his own 22, gets isolated, gets turned over, penalty, 14-0. So immediately they weren't going to, what gave them a bit of a false sense of hope was those 2 quick tries. But they weren't ever in the game. And I just found it very naive. If they'd gone to the Northern Hemisphere and played it, that kind of rugby, they take a pounding in those conditions.
Yeah.
Let's get into a prediction. Let's give a score, because I am going to bet a lot of money on the Bulls to win this outright. I think it only pays about 40% return, but it's one of the safest bets I've seen all year.
31-15 for the Bulls, 16-point differential.
Wow. Jimmy?
The
prosecution rests.
Yeah. Well, can we postpone? And far later. The Bulls certainly.
But you wouldn't say that.
No. Guys, I have a reservation, and again, I want to go against the grain here. I think that on the last performances between the two generals, Kerwin outplayed, outkicked tactically Mornay State. Yes, Mornay comes with a hell of a legacy, okay, point taken. But again, I say at discipline time, I just think that the Sharks can pick them off. Marco van Staden has shown that he's a massive liability on the ground and with penalties, and yellow cards. And if they're going to find themselves in those positions, I would like to favour the Sharks by 6 to 9 points.
Give us a score, buddy. Come on, work with them. Give us a score.
I'll say.
Do the math.
I'd say 15-19 to Sharks.
That's 4 points. I thought your game was 6 to 9.
Shush, Keel. I think that I think the Bulls dominate. I'm going to go 33-18.
15 points.
Yeah, not even close. Good luck to both teams out there and both sets of fans. Remember, it's only a game, so let's keep the trolling down to a minimal. We don't know the score before the game, obviously, so half you're going to be right and half you're going to be wrong.
So the Sharks supporters can thank me.
Yeah.
Obviously, the Bull supporters will hate me. But in an ideal world, you can never keep everyone happy.
And the province supporters will obviously always love us.
Yeah, clearly.
Yeah.
You need to learn to love yourself and learn to be alone, as they say.
That message was brought to you and your team by Bullet.
Anyway, enjoy the game this weekend, and let's hope for a great contest.
Absolutely, that keeps the tradition of the Currie Cup in high esteem.
And as Jackie Moon says, everybody love everybody, man.
There we go.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, gentlemen.